Hi everyone, I will introduce the summary of our essay we choose. The writer name is Johanna Tantria. She is known for Jo. She is a member of the NGO, the Women's Partner of the Safe City. Her mission in life is to build a culture of gender equality. She leads community discussions, trainings on preventing violence against women and girls. She grew up in a family without gender inequality, but she always actively participated in student activism. She always wanted to transfer her knowledge to a lot of people. She would always try to eliminate gender inequality. She thought that gender inequality starts from the house and gender equality should start from the family. What her wish to see is the better relations between the family, because there should not be the standardized gender role. She encouraged people that even a small amount of power would be a great help, and she felt hope when she saw the changing neighbors. From now on, we will announce our emotional analysis. We classified the writer's emotions into 8 categories: responsibility, decisiveness, lucky, hardship, strong will, wishy, hope, encouragement. Then we will introduce our own emotion. We divided the parts and will talk about our experience of feeling similar to what the writer felt.
Now I will present of our emotional analysis of our article. The writer always aware that she had to transfer on his knowledge to others, and she has a sense of responsibility. Her important goal in life is to build a culture of gender equality, so she actively participated in student activism and always inspired people. She may feel that her responsibility is very important, so she did not betray her belief and acted actively. She felt responsible for encouraging others as well as herself. She was not discouraged by the bad reality, but she had the courage to change it. What made her feel that way? She was born and raised in a family where inequality does not exist, but her father taught her to be interested in gender equality. In this page, our my personal experience and my emotional analysis. The author learned from his father the values that had a lot of influence on life. I felt similar to writer in that formed values in my family. A family is a place where children's values are formed. The values learned at home affected a child's life. She learned responsibility for transfer her knowledge to others at home, and I learned at home how to treat people and the fun of teaching, because my mother made me explain to her what I learned at school, and I have a dream of being a teacher. And this is emotional analysis of second paragraph. This is her most assertive argument. She seems to have felt uncomfortable with the gender inequality she encountered at her workplace. The place where she encountered inequality is at work, but she believed gender equality should begin at home. Why had she thought that? She actively participated in the student activism to change society, but insisted that gender equality began at home. Despite her active efforts, society hasn't changed much, so she seems to appeal that the basic beginning is from home. In the past, both of my parents were working, but my mother did all the housework such as cleaning and washing the dishes by herself. On Korean holidays, women do all the housework. Such perceptions have continued over the last few centuries. It is unfair to do all sorts of housework because of women. This, in, this inequality in particular gets worse during the holiday. It is a famous story that many couples divorce because of the stress of holiday. This current practice not only emphasizes household to women, but have a bad influence on men. Men doesn't go to kitchen. You have to make money instead of household. Put pressure on men. After the holidays, my mom looked unhappy for some reason, and my dad used to buy her presents. Looking back, my father wanted to help household which has done by women, but I think he was reading the old people face such as grandfather and grandmother. Gender inequality in households is said to be violent to women and the beginning of various gender inequality. Also, gender inequality in household emphasizes masculinity, immobilizes male gender role, and is violent.
Then the writer felt lucky. She said I was lucky because her house didn't have gender inequality. And there is no inequality in my house, such as domestic violence and gender discrimination. There is also no distinction between what women and men do in the house. We just share our housework that we can do better. So is that why I am lucky too? I didn't think so. It was natural for me not to feel gender inequality at home. However, the writer felt her reality was lucky. Through the word, I realized that the reality of gender inequality in her society was very common and serious. However, these statistics changed my mind. The statistics show that the survey of women's wages, women's political activities are becoming less discriminative. However, sexual violence and domestic violence are increasing. The reality that the writer felt in her society was not the only story of others. Our country also needs a change in the family. I was quite surprised to see these statistics, and as the writer felt, I felt disappear about society and luck about my situation. The writer thought she was lucky, but I guess she was not just happy to see the reality of her neighbors, because that is how I feel now. Then what can I do? The writer has tried to change society even though she was happy herself. I'm also happy now, but I must speak for my unhappy neighbors. In Korea, the more people pay attention to, the more it becomes an issue. Therefore, I will add my little strength. The writer's next emotion is hardship. She realized that her ideas and reality were different. The reality was darker than she thought, so she felt this work was not easy, but later, though, and challenging. The patriarchy system in Korea is also formidable. There was a patriarchy system from a very long time ago. Even though Jakarta, where the writer lives, is very far from where I live, but I can easily sympathize with the situation there. That is because I saw many books and videos about gender inequality and the patriarchy system in Korea. So when I read this essay, I did not feel strange either, and I thought about how hard it would be for women to suffer. In this article, there is one more person who suffered. It is the writer herself. She felt a gap between her ideas and realities, and realized that what she was doing was very challenging. I have never done such a great work for gender equality as she did. But like almost everyone else, I have had a hard time because my ideas and reality was very different. Therefore, I can expect and sympathize with the writer that how hard it was for the writer. I admire the writer who feels pain to reduce other person's pain, not for herself. I came to reflect on myself.
Hello, my name is Park Ha-eun, third presenter. I'm going to talk about the emotional analysis of paragraph 5 and 6. In paragraph 5, she didn't give up. She constantly insisted on changing the culture for women, despite there was no gender inequality in her family. She found inequality in many houses. She seems angry at the inequality and violence at home. She will constantly argue that equality from home should begin before changing communities. Her family can set an example and improve her neighbors' thoughts. After read this, I emotionally agree with her opinion that it is important to change the flow of culture to prevent gender discrimination in women. As a woman like her, I face a lot of implicit discrimination in reality. For example, even if it's what I want to do, people don't give it to me because they think I can't do it because I'm a woman. Or part time jobs that treat men more for no reason. In addition, there are cases where we pass by without knowing the fact, and there are situations in which we know that there is nothing we can do in a situation where the majorities agree. Perhaps the writer was frustrated and felt unfairness in this kind of situation and found the best she could do. Also, the speaker would sincerely sympathize with the wound and pains of other women who are discriminated against. Discrimination is no longer a problem for others. Even if some women haven't experienced discrimination, when they hear anecdotes of it, they empathize and get angry as if it were their own and try to correct it. Just as writer's family is a good example, we in reality can change this culture from a small community. We must create a home with an equal and harmonious distribution of work. We must protect the human rights of women by taking more interest and sympathy in the category of gender discrimination and making them free from the patriarchal family culture that still remains in our country. In paragraph 6, I can feel her earnestness. I can also feel her firmness. She wants to see changes that begin at home. In a desirable social structure, if the distribution of work is unequal just because the sex is different, I think it is not correct. It is the role of family members that everyone in each family has the right to decide their own choices and respect them. However, forcing the discrimination method set by the culture and acting as if only that is true will invade family happiness. Let me take an example of my case. Our family has no discrimination and is not patriarchal. Of course, my mom usually does the housework and my dad goes to work. But on the weekend, my dad does much more chores. In addition, they also don't give me the way women behave. Rather, they give me freedom of choice and trust whatever it is. In order for us to create a happy family, we must build on a foundation where both men and women are equal in status and have no reason to be discriminated against. Looking at this issue from the same point of view as her, at least I feel a tremendous enthusiasm for change on this topic to work with.
Hello everyone, this is Nasrian who will introduce about emotional reading of paragraph 7 and 8. In paragraph 7, the writer felt hopeful when she saw the change that began with her neighbor. She also felt that change is possible. People were only moved by their husbands washing and helping with dinner. I came to realize that the reality there was serious. In my house, most of the housework is done by my mother. Of course, the case of laundry and dinner preparation is the same. Especially, Dad rarely takes part in preparing meals. This part makes me remind of my family. That's because my mom also says, "What happened today?" when my dad helps her prepare dinner. When she says like that, he feels awkward and says, "Because I'm so hungry right now, so I can't wait it." After reading this article, I also thought of my experience that I watched a TV program which was showed a story of man and his wife. In the show, the problem was husband started to eat dinner while his wife was still preparing dinner yet. After the broadcast, various viewers talked about their thoughts in the comments. I thought that the husband has made fault of course when I saw this scene, but seeing that there were people advocating his action, I came to realize once more that gender inequality in my country is still deeply rooted. I'm also I'm really sorry that as the author thinks in this article, preparing dinner by men seems to be a special situation. The establishment of the role of women in the house has already ended in the past. I think at home housework should be of course for men, but not help. If everyone thinks that like that, the men who do the housework will throw away the pride that they are doing great things, and women will naturally accept the husband's action, not expect them to do so. If the relationship between men and women at home change so horizontally, and the relationships between men and women disappears, it is naturally expected that the implicit social structure will also change. In the paragraph 8, the writer felt feeling despair and hope together. She constantly strives for her goals. She thinks it's hard to change the world completely, but if everyone changes little by little, it's not impossible. Looking at the writer's attitude of feeling both despair and hope, I felt greater hope, because I have thought that the end of the despair will never be despair anymore. In this article, the author describes women as sufferers and talked about hopeless current situations, but even in those situations, the author is determined to firmly do her best in the roles given to her, finding hope and helping to solve the situation of those suffering. The writer's will and the attitude encouraged me have challenged. As the author last mentioned, we don't necessarily have to be a big candle if in changing a situation. If each of us slowly gather a small candles one by one, suddenly it would be a bright big light. I think if people who think as the writer actively take courage even a little bit, the world that all we expect will come quickly. One of the Korean proverbs says, two heads are better than one head. I think it is national petition system that best illustrates this proverb. In fact, according to an article in 한겨레, 4 out of 10 postings of petitioners for the petition are about gender. The picture below is analysis of keywords in those articles. In this age when gender equality has not been established firmly, I think those moves will bring about a big change one day.
From now on, I will explain the critical analysis. I will introduce the writer purpose, reliability, point of view, and possible bias. The writer name is Johanna Tantria, and she is a member of the NGO, and she always wanted to eliminate the gender inequality and inspired people, young students, and community. There are two purposes in the essay. First is persuasion. The author argues that gender inequality from household should be resolved, and men and women should work together in household to prevent sexual violence and gender inequality. So the author wanted to persuade other people. And the second purpose is explanation. The author explained that gender inequality in the home is a serious problem and unequal paradigm should be changed. And she also explained that many NGOs try to solve the problem of gender inequality and unequal household. These articles are from UN Women, which has global influence and public confidence. And also, there are many her personal detailed experience and what she saw during the work. So our team thought this essay is so reliable. From the beginning to the end of the essay, she shows a negative attitude toward gender inequality. She constantly insists that gender inequality should be eliminated. So she said that gender equality should start at home and encouraged people to participate and help to remove the gender inequality. And there are some possible bias. First, she would have experienced gender inequality in society, but not home, because there is no gender inequality in her house. And she may have witnessed gender inequality among her neighbors or in her workplace, because she said, I often encounter these kinds of problems in places I work. So we guess. And last, she would have encountered a variety of problems with female inequality while she was working for women's equality. These four things are our possible bias. Thank you for listening our team's presentation.